The fire type has some of the hottest and deadliest Pokemon in the entire franchise. But Pokemon Ultra Sun is arguably the hardest game in the series, which also includes plenty of powerful obstacles that can crush and extinguish fire types. So I wanted to test whether it was actually possible to beat all of Pokemon Ultra Sun using only fire type Pokemon. Here's what happened. After loading in, our first objective is finding our first fire type. Although before we can get one, we're attacked by a feral, vicious rodent. This spawn camping rat is trying to finish me off before I've even gotten a Pokemon. And while I did have an idea in mind for how to peacefully handle this situation, ultimately we're saved by Professor Kukui. Ah, if it isn't my Alolan cousin. I'm guessing you're a fan of fire types? How could you tell? Is it really that obvious? We're then given our choice of starter Pokemon, but obviously there's no real choice here. Litten is not only an adorable little kitten in its own right, but when the time comes, this thing eventually turns into a monster. One of the most dominant, unavoidable Pokemon in all of VGC competitive. So that should mean that this challenge is probably just going to be a piece of cake. Right? Anyway, after enacting some very satisfying revenge against the local rat population, shortly afterwards, we meet our rival, Hao. Wow, Hao, that's a nice starter Pokemon you got there. Thanks, Fuego. I just know that me and Rowlet will have a fun, long journey in Alola together. Oh, that's so sweet. Litten, kill. After such a successful battling debut, now we can quickly move through the opening introductions of the game. It's your typical Pokemon adventure, walking through the routes, meeting important characters, getting saved from an ancient island deity after almost falling to our deaths, you know, the usual. But once that's all behind us, we can finally begin our adventure through Alola with the goal of having our fire types sit on the throne as the first champions of this region. But with all these extra rules on top, to make this already difficult game even harder, this was absolutely not going to be easy. And this was going to become immediately obvious once we made our way to the trainer school after quickly burning through a whole stack of amateur trainers and their fourth-rate teams. Would the Pokemon trainer Fuego please come to the school office immediately? What terrible thing did you do to get called to the office immediately? I don't know. I only burnt a few students and haven't even set fire to any of the classrooms yet. Regardless, despite this injustice, I marched towards the office, ready to give them a piece of my mind. And with how locked in me and my Litten are, there's no chance of anyone being able to stop us. Except, it turns out that's not the case, because Teacher Emily is obviously a dirty thief, having stolen the last starter. And Poplio, much like all water types, is a massive threat to our fire types. A few quick water guns are all it needs to completely kill my confidence in just 2 turns. Even after grinding some extra levels onto our Litten, we're just repeatedly pummeled over and over again by this. I'm not feeling so fantastic about our chances anymore. Regardless, I continued trying this fight and continued to lose. But eventually, we get a spark of hope as our Litten's licks also carry a small chance to paralyze our opponent. This gives us a tiny window to pull ahead, as with enough paralysis luck, our fiery kitten can just barely make it past Poplio, giving us a surprisingly hard-fought win for this early in the game. And trust me, this game was not going to get any easier from here, as our Litten was about to be thrown into the face of another huge hurdle. Anyway, now we're able to graduate from the trainer school, leaving a present behind to show our gratitude, of course, and head out into Hau'oli City. While we're here, we can transform our look into something far more befitting of a fire-type expert, and definitely not change into an unrecognizable disguise to hide us from the authorities. Yep. Who'd need to do that? Speaking of striking new looks, it's here that we run into the incredibly menacing villains of the Alolan Islands, Team Skull. And we torch them like it's nothing. Wow, that was easy. Look, being an arsonist is not really a lucrative career path, but you can learn some skills that are far less destructive and far more profitable with the help of our sponsor, Boot.dev. Learning software development is something that I've always been interested in, but it just looks so intimidating and, well, hard. However, Boot.dev makes programming much more accessible. It's a tool that teaches you how to program starting from zero. It starts you off slowly with simple explanations and short videos that are easy to understand, even for a total beginner. So even someone like me with a small, smooth brain can learn Python, SQL, and Go. Boot.dev is framed like an RPG, So you earn XP, level up, and complete achievements, all while learning to code. The lessons are also really hands-on. You get to write code yourself and fix errors in existing code. One of the later modules even has you learn how to build your own Pokédex, which is really cool. While using boot.dev, not only was I having a surprising amount of fun, I was also learning a lot. And these skills are actually useful in the real world. In 2024, the median salary for backend developers in the US was over $100,000. So, if you want a fun way of learning software development, either for you or as a gift for someone else, check out boot.dev by clicking the link in the description. And if you use my code KeeganJ, you'll get a massive 25% discount on the first year of an annual plan. So if you've ever thought about wanting to learn how to code, check out boot.dev to get you started. Those Team Skull battles were very straightforward. However, the trial captain Ilima fight is far more deadly. Ultra Sun as a whole has some incredibly difficult fights throughout the game, but its boss fights are on a whole other level. And that difficulty is on full display in our upcoming fight against Ilima and his normal types. He's only carrying 2 Pokemon, and we can once again call in Pest Control to take out his pet rat within a few turns. Although our Litten is crippled in the process, which is then made even worse by the fact that Ilima sends in Smeagol. This guy isn't normally seen as being very intimidating, but for this early on in the game, Smeagol has some pretty crazy stats, while also happening to know Water Gun. Before long, Smeagol drowns out our Litten, once again giving us yet another loss. It's one thing to be tormented by a funny-faced water type, but it's another thing entirely to be slapped around and spat on by a Smeagol. A Smeagol! This challenge was not looking good whatsoever, as I then went on to repeatedly lose against Ilima. This felt totally hopeless, since under the rules of this challenge, I can't exceed level 15 until after we beat the first Kahuna. So, with that in mind, I grinded Litten up to level 14, where it learns a new powerful move, Fire Fang. And with this added boost, I once again stepped up to Ilima to try and overcome this 2v1. This time, a Fire Fang does big damage to Ilima's lead, allowing us to get past Yungoos in just 2 chomps. More importantly though, now we outspeed the artistic Smeagol, dishing out big damage, while also now withstanding its attacks far easier. This run was already proving to be incredibly hard, but our champion Cat ultimately clutches up in a massive 2v1, finally giving us the win. That was our toughest fight yet, and while things would definitely get worse, for now, things were looking up. And the reason for that is now we have access to Route 2, and it's here that after a long hunt, we can find Growlithe. A man's best friend and a pyromaniac's dream, Growlithe is a massive addition to the team. While cats and dogs are natural enemies, having these two as an early game pair was going to be incredibly useful, and this duo was already going to start paying dividends as we approached our first trial in the Island Challenge. Across the Alola region, these trials are capped off with a terrifying totem Pokemon that's not only fully evolved, but also gets a powerful stat boost. And while the first totem Pokemon, Gumshoos, is a scary prospect with its monstrous attack and boosted defense, thankfully, we have a hot dog. Growlithe can burn through Gumshoe's HP pretty effectively with Ember, all while the totem Pokemon just wastes its time by going for Scary Face. Even with the backup that gets called in, thanks to our held Citrus Berry, we're able to hang on, bringing Gumshoes into the red before our puppy falls. This all clears Litten to finish the job, burning up both the totem and its little brother in just 2 moves. With that, we'd collected an Island Z Crystal on our very first try, and I had full confidence in our cat-dog combo. Truly nothing could stop us now. Wow, Fuego, you beat the totem trial too? How about we have another battle so you can see how strong I've gotten? Fine, Hal. If you really so badly want me to burn Rowlet to a crisp again, so be it. So, we begin our rematch against our rival and his grass-type starter. Wait, that's not a Rowlet. No. Instead, Hal has a Poplio? The goofy little seal has re-emerged this run, and it absolutely rips through my fire types with its water guns, giving us an incredibly overpowering loss. Dude, what just happened? Where's your Rowlet? Oh, yeah, Rowlet's just chilling in the hospital. So Kukui gave me the other starter. Isn't that great? Dear God, I am staring down the most dangerous man in all of Alola right now. Now our rival was a true force to be reckoned with, but I wasn't going to take this long lying down. And what better way to stick it to Hal than by taking out his bloodline? To finish our starting lap around the Alola region, we have to take on the first island Kahuna, and also Hal's grandfather, Hala. Hala's team outnumbers our fire types 3-2, including some hard-hitting fighting types. So, naturally, this fight would surely go down to the wire and... oh. Never mind. Yeah, so unfortunately, it looks like multiple generations of Hal's family tree are getting their chance to bully us, as we are absolutely and unequivocally crushed by Hala's fighters. Seriously, I attempted this fight over and over, but we have nothing. His team is just so powerful that in every attempt, our pair of pets are wiped out like it's nothing. Forget conquering the island challenge, our team of fire types can't even make it out of our own neighborhood. At this point, we've already gone as far as we can with the Pokemon available to us. Except there is one more Pokemon at our disposal, because by using the island scan feature in the Alola games and heading to the Howley Cemetery, this gives us the possibility to recruit ourselves Litwick, a hauntingly powerful fire-type Pokemon for the future. For now though, we can only really wax lyrical about its evolutions, but its secondary ghost typing gives us a massive lifeline in this run, and Hala has no idea what's ahead of him now that we have this new teammate. Thanks to this newest recruit, neither Hala's Machop or Makuhita can hit our ghost type at all, and despite him immediately switching in his Crabrawler who can hit us, we instantly neuter its damage output with Will-O-Wisp. This not only puts Hala's ace on a timer, it means that once we do wear it down with all of our team, this fight is basically decided, as slowly but surely, our tiny candle can carry us and the entire run on its back, as eventually Hala's final Pokemon falls, giving us a very clutch win against the first island Kahuna. I guess it just goes to show that whenever the going gets tough, you should just find a way to cheese it. But who cares about the method when we get results like this? And now, with a deadly trio like the one we have, there's nothing for us to be afraid of as we prepare to leave for the next island. Oh, cousin! Sorry, you're not coming on the boat with us. I thought we'd give you a real Alolan experience by having you surf on a Mantine instead. Sorry, what did you say? Surfing? On the water? With a water-type Pokemon? Okay, don't panic, Fuego. There's nothing that this disgustingly threatening beast can do to hurt you. Oh, hey, hang on. This isn't so bad after all. Maybe I've been wrong. Could I actually grow to enjoy the company of water types? Well, I may have been all washed up and still want to drain every ocean, but thankfully, we'd made it to Akala Island in one piece. And it's here where Ultra Sun reaches the mid-game and it really begins to turn up the heat. But I'll get into that later. For now, we can warm up with a simple fight against Dexio, who's visiting from Kalos and only has 2 Pokemon. Never mind. I stand corrected. Even with the numbers advantage and type advantage with Litwick, an Espeon at this stage of the game just dices through our squad with Psybeam. So we're still getting slapped around, but now I'm trying a new positive approach of just smiling through the pain. See? Look how happy we are. And while it sucks to take another loss, on the bright side, we can quickly swing momentum back in our favor, as on Route 4, we're eventually able to get hold of our own Eevee. Though we can't evolve it into a Flareon for a while, it's still nice to have an Eevee ready and waiting in the box. Even better than that though, is at level 17, our Litten is able to evolve into the bigger and better Torracat. It's not quite at its full power just yet, but now we're one step closer to having an absolute menace at the helm. Thanks to those team upgrades, now I'm feeling so much better about our team and the island challenge going forward. Wait, why did I just feel a chill run down my spine? Hey, you made it to Panaolia Town, Fuego. And look, my Poplio evolved too. Ugh, let's just get this over with, Hal. Okay, it's getting a little bit embarrassing to be humbled every time we build up some momentum, but like I said, we grin and bear any and all struggle, which is the attitude we need as we were about to meet a very angsty rival. This Hal guy, he's so chipper all the time. It's no wonder he couldn't beat me in a Pokemon battle. Wait, you beat Hal? How did you do that? Teach me your ways, Gladion. I just used a bunch of non-fire type Pokemon. It's not that hard. I have no idea how to do that. Even though this edgelord and his trio is incredibly strong, thanks to the fact that he doesn't own a goofy little seal, Gladion has no great answers for our squad. Our Torracat can chomp through his first two Pokemon with little resistance, and while type Null is a bit of a problem, we can still outlast it thanks to a combination of burn and bites. We're finally undefeated against a rival. Although, even when we do win, things still come down to the wire, and when things look rough, well, you'll get what's coming up next. We were about to be thrown from the frying pan straight into the fire, as the first Akala Island challenge is standing before us, and it's an absolutely terrifying one. Lana's water trial might seem somewhat simple from the outside. Sure, water is the natural opponent for fire lovers everywhere, but we're still able to school the small fry wishy-washy easily. Most of the time. But even though we can complete the challenge tasks relatively easily, the second that the totem Araquanid appears, everything changes. While its bug water typing may seem good for us at first glance, Araquanid is a monster. Its water bubble ability prevents it from being burnt and halves the damage that it takes from fire type moves. And on top of that, we're in the rain, which halves our fire type damage again, all while boosting the totem's water type moves. To make matters even worse, the totem also gets a speed boost, allowing it to now outspeed all of our Pokemon, making this fight a deadly recipe for disaster. All it takes is a simple bubble for the totem to extinguish each and every one of our teammates in a single shot, handing us the most dominant loss of this entire challenge, which is saying a lot. Believe me, I tried everything I could to try and tackle this totem. Some extra levels in battle might allow our team to outspeed and outlive attacks, yet our damage output is that. Seriously, I got so desperate that I even had to overcome my fear of Mantine surfing just to buy some zinc vitamins to boost my team's special defense. Yet ultimately, the result ended up being the same, as even on the off chance that we do live an attack from the totem, the Araquanid's ally Dewpider can easily clean us up from there. We are trapped in a bubble right now, and unlike the island scan, there's no big brain solution in front of us. This aquatic spider is in complete control over us, with no hope of any resolution in sight. So, in that case, we were gonna have to get creative. We are strapped for encounters right now, stuck with just our trio of fire types. However, if we return to Meli Meadow, we have a chance to find Oricorio. Although this pom-pommed bird is an electric flying type. Thankfully though, after some intensive physical therapy with this little dancer, it can transform itself into the red hot Bale style, making it a fire flying type. Considering these guys are usually found pretty late in Alola, getting to take control of an underutilized Alolan Pokemon seems like a good idea. And with our new fire-flying bird on hand, now we were ready for yet another rematch with the deadly Araquanid. Thanks to its great special attack and speed stats, Air Cutters from Oricorio do big damage to the totem. Even better though, is not only can it withstand a bubble far better than the rest of our team, but Air Cutter also has a high critical hit chance, which, on the following turn, brings the totem Pokemon down to the brink of death. While Oricorio does go down thanks to Masquerain's paralysis and Araquanid's powerful attacks, it did a great job of laying the foundation, as from here, Torracat can outspeed the totem and finish it off with a scratch before chomping down on the ally Masquerain with a Fire Fang for the KO. So far, this challenge has been a seismic wave of pain, but thanks to Oricorio, the sun shines once again as we're finally past the water trial. You know, I once reeled in a red Gyarados. Well, I once reeled in a Gyarados and set it on fire. You need serious help. With the huge obstacle of the water trial now toppled, now we can continue on towards becoming the most powerful pyromaniac on Akala Island. Before that though, we have to take a brief pit stop at Royal Avenue, which is a stadium dedicated to free-for-all Pokemon battles. This sounds like a good chance for our fire types to show off and... oh no. So not only is Hal here, but he wants to get involved in the action too. That's fine though. It might seem terrifying to go against Brion once more, but there's multiple opponents and several Pokemon on the field. So maybe we can all work together and... this is the worst day of my entire life. Regardless, after that embarrassing performance, the fire-type specialist Kiowe appears. Clearly, this is a truly cultured man if he appreciates the fire type. Anyway, Kiowe then clears us to take on our next trial against the fire totem of Wela Volcano. And this is a very significant point in our fire-type challenge. See, our team has clearly struggled a lot so far, having been slapped around, spat on, and just downright disrespected by most trainers we've come across. However, Route 7 is where our fortunes are about to change, because under the heat of Wela Park, we can finally get a bunch more encounters to add to our squad. And the first of those that we find is Magby, a pint-sized fiery duck? While it is basically a baby compared to the rest of our squad and has an oddly shaped head, at least Magby gives us some extra numbers. Next up though is a big fire type inclusion for our team as we find Alola's own Salandit, a mischievous and toxic little creature that I'd love to catch, but due to the fact that only female Salandit can evolve, this one is practically worthless to us. So instead, we beat it down into low health, forcing it to call allies in support and repeatedly beat up every puny male reinforcement that makes an appearance. This does take some time, but eventually we find ourselves a female Salandit who we are able to add to our squad. And lastly, our final encounter for now is Fletchling, an adorable normal type bird who isn't a fire type yet, but we can evolve it immediately into the fire phoenix, Fletchinder. It doesn't quite have the dancing shoes of Oricorio, but it's still a welcome addition to our squad. And it's these newest recruits who would be incredibly helpful as we prepare to take on the final two totems of Akala Island. We don't have a great matchup against Totem Marowak, only Oricorio has comparable dancing skills. However, our numbers advantage does give us some options to work with. For example, we can use Feather Dance to nerf the totem's attack stat into the dirt, which completely neutralizes its offense and clears our team to try and topple the totem. It's not entirely straightforward, as many of our team faint in the process. Regardless, after gradually chipping away at the totem, one final Dragon Rage from our poisonous lizard is all we need to conquer the fire type trial. And the trial that follows is against Totem Lurantis, which is usually a monster to prepare for. It's got strong stats, along with a speed boost, which makes it even harder to deal with. Although, our new Magby knows the move Clear Smog, which has the added effect of removing an opponent's stat boosts. In the case of Lurantis, this completely slows it down, allowing both Magby and Fletchinder to prey on the Mantis for an incredibly easy win. This island hadn't started well whatsoever, but now, with our upgraded team, we had confidently asserted ourselves as the most formidable fighter on Akala Island. Oh, wait, there's one more fight here. Against Olivia, who uses rock types. Yeah, no. While our team had definitely gotten a lot stronger, all it takes is a hot woman with a pet rock collection to completely bring us back down to earth. Olivia is arguably one of the biggest roadblocks in Alola, especially for a fire-type specialist. With two powerful fossils, combined with a fully evolved Lycanroc that can rip our team to shreds with its Z-move Continental Crush. And to make matters worse, not even a single one of our teammates can resist the power of Olivia, especially our two birds who were quad weak to rock. Honestly, I didn't have much confidence going into this fight. But even despite my low expectations, I was still shocked by how terribly this went. We didn't even get to see the rest of Olivia's team, as smackdowns are all that she needs to just crush our fire types under the weight of her Anorith. An Anorith! No matter how hard we try, the Alola region just refuses to give us a break, crushing our fire types repeatedly. And despite trying some new strategies, this fight is still completely hopeless, as Olivia's rocks just crush our team over and over. Despite the repeated losses though, I still wasn't ready to give up. So, my plan for redemption starts with a detour back to Route 7 to catch another Pokémon. This time though, it's the lonely orphan Pokémon, Cubone. Thanks to our current level cap, once nighttime falls, our new Cubone can evolve into the spectral form of its mother, Alolan Marowak. With solid stats in both attack and defense, this is a great option to help fight back against those boulders. But we're not done yet, as after a little more late night surfing on Mantine, we had earned enough BP which we can spend at the Royal Avenue, giving us the ability capsule. By combining this item with a firestone that we found in the Diglett tunnel, this lets us take our flash fire puppy Growlithe and transform it into an intimidating legendary beast, Arcanine. These two powerhouse Pokemon are massive additions to the team, and alongside our Torracat, who is holding our newly acquired Eviolite, this trio would surely have what it takes to step up to Olivia, and we still lost? Seriously, this fight just doesn't pull any punches. No matter how powerful our team gets, this rock-type trio of the Island Kahunas just keeps on crushing us into the dirt. Honestly, this was starting to feel incredibly bleak. At least until this attempt. By leading with Arcanine, the attack drop from Intimidate not only helps us tank hits better, it also lets us fire off a Bulldoze, which does decent damage and also gets a speed drop too. Thanks to this, on the next turn, we outspeed and crunch down on the bug with Fire Fang to put us in the lead. Then, when Lilip hits the field, we immediately pivot into our Torracat to tank the incoming Ancient Power. Then, with our newly learned Swagger, we cause Lilip to become confused, causing it to hit itself. Somehow. This gives us a massive opening, as now Torracat can trade blows, tanking one more Ancient Power before pummeling Lilip back to the Stone Age with double kicks. Now we've made it past Olivia's first two Pokemon, leaving us in a 3 versus 1. However, that wouldn't last for long, as the incredibly deadly Lycanroc hits the field next, which immediately results in Torracat falling at the hands of a Rock Tomb. Thankfully though, with Arcanine still alive, we can send it in to fire off a very useful Intimidate. And to make things even better, for some reason, Olivia just goes for Bite. This opens up a tiny window for Arcanine to use Bulldoze once again, yielding yet another speed drop. On the next turn though, Olivia just decides to drop an entire continent on our giant puppy, which very quickly sends Arcanine to its grave. This all brings it down to a 1v1, but those stat drops on Lycanroc set things up perfectly for our Alolan and Marowak. With a combination of Bone Meringue and Brick Break, we crush Lycanroc into dust, giving us an insanely hard-fought victory over the second Island Kahuna. That marks our halfway point in the challenge. But man, this game just refuses to make things simple for me and my fire types. Fortunately for us, after working up such a sweat, we're able to take a brief detour on our island adventure by heading to the Aether Paradise, a Pokemon conservation project to ensure that Pokemon stay safe and healthy. Wow, this place looks so lovely, Lusamine. Don't you think so, Fuego? Fuego? What are you doing? What? This is how I unwind. Anyway, after this brief detour, whereby a literal alien jellyfish decides to spawn in, we were now sailing towards our next destination, Ula Ula Island. And after the hard-fought victories we'd achieved against all odds over in Akala Island, I'm sure there's nothing on this third island that could trouble us in any way. Okay, how doesn't count. Fortunately, we can ignore that minor issue of a rival who's consistently beaten us up for the majority of this game, and instead make the trek up Mount Hokulani in search of our next totem that we need to take down. Before that though, we get to have a nice discussion with Professor Kukui. There it is, cousin. Mount Lanakila is the peak of where I want to take Alola. Awesome idea, Kukui. Starting a wildfire from the top of Alola is the perfect starting point. No. I meant for the new Pokemon League. Oh. Can we still have the fire though? After leaving Kukui to marinate on our genius plan for the region, now we can focus our efforts on the first of the two bosses on this island. As, after coming up with our own solution to the electric puzzle set by Sophocles, his machines go haywire, summoning the totem Togedemaru. While this is a fearsome hedgehog with its high stats and a very menacing defense boost, its steel typing makes it weak to fire, which should make this battle an absolute breeze. Except, that's not what happened, because this menacing little bowling ball is still a nightmare for us to deal with. Not only does it use Spiky Shield to waste our time, its Zing Zaps both do big damage and have the chance to make us flinch. These two problems, combined with the ally Skarmory that gets called in, means that we still struggle despite having the inherent type advantage. Seriously, our team just wasn't able to penetrate through Togedemaru, and through the absolute pain of bad RNG, we'd lost again. Look, I could deal with some particularly formidable totems, and I made peace with the strength of the Island Kahunas. But losing to a Togedemaru through nothing but flinches and bad luck? This island challenge was really starting to test my patience. Fortunately, our Arcanine is hungry for revenge in our rematch, and this time things go much smoother. Rather than getting flinched, on this attempt, Arcanine pulls through for us by repeatedly landing bulldozers, which deal great chip damage while also lowering the totem's speed. And once Togedemaru is slower than the rest of our team, the spherical, flammable rat is at the mercy of my firefighters as each and every one chips in to melt Togedemaru and its allies into a metallic puddle. That was a pretty satisfying win against the electric totem, and after getting incredibly unlucky in that first attempt, I was hoping that that would be the last cheap loss that our fire types would have to endure. Unfortunately, I was wrong about that, because after arriving in Mali Garden, it's here that we meet Guzma, the top boss of Team Skull. I haven't really mentioned Team Skull all that much in this challenge, mainly because their teams are about as threatening to my fire types as a dried out, highly flammable forest. So, for the most part, I expected Guzma to be the same. Hey, wait a minute, aren't you that kid that's tormenting all my grunts by beating them in battle and then setting them on fire? I cannot confirm or deny how much I enjoyed doing that to them. Right, that's it, Squirt. Me and my bug types are going to teach you a lesson. Oh man, I'm so scared of some measly bug-type cockroaches. Bring it on, old man. Guzma, the king of the losers, specializes in bug types, which means we get the honor of absolutely embarrassing him and... Wait, what? Seriously? We lost to Guzma? Guzma? Yep. This fight was horrible from the very start, as Guzma has Golisopod, a water bug type that hits our team hard with razor shells, immediately crushing Torracat. But once we force it to exit the battlefield with Oricorio, not only does his Masquerain also do massive damage with its Air Slash, but by the time we take it down and Golisopod returns, we're both outmatched and incredibly unlucky as our Air Cutter misses. We just lost a 6v2 against a disgusting bug freak. And I am furious. Island Kahunas ripping us to pieces sucks. Totems cheesing their way to victory stings, but losing to some random bug freak? I might have been angry before, but this fight completely sent me over the edge, and I was not going to hold back whatsoever anymore. With our current level cap, Salandit can finally find the strength to stand on two legs, evolving into the super fast and super powerful Salazzle. Then, by taking our new Salazzle and combining it with the rest of our team, this means that this time, our squad can turn Guzma's team to ashes. It's still a tough fight, but we fare much better this time, giving us some bittersweet revenge against a big bad bug boy. However, making it to this point in the game is absolutely huge for our fire types, as now we have access to Route 12. And along here, our team once again gets a bunch of upgrades to power us up. For starters, we're able to get the incredibly dangerous fire-breathing dragon on our squad, Turtonator. Just look at this guy. Doesn't it scream terrifying beast to you? On top of that, this guy isn't the only fire type with a reinforced shell that we'll be able to use, as after running around in circles, we're eventually able to find ourselves Torkoal. Not just any Torkoal though, one with the ability Drought, which sets up the sun, making it a massive addition to our team that can help boost up all of our other fire types. The upgrades don't stop there though, as not only does our strange looking duck Magby now evolve into the butt-headed Magmar, but finally, the Pokemon we've been waiting for since the start of this run gets to make its entrance, as our ace Torracat becomes the horrifying heel Incineroar, a fire dark type that has been tormenting the hearts and minds of VGC players everywhere for the last decade. All of a sudden, our team was looking far more menacing as we'd gotten some big upgrades, and our new strength was about to be on full display as the last major fights on Ula Ula Island can only cower beneath our fiery power. The Ghost Totem Mimikyu might be a terrifying Pokemon that even gets an Omni boost to its stats, but our Totem Whisperer Magmar can immediately nullify those boosts with a Clear Smog before our Salazzle can hit the Totem with Toxic, effectively putting it on a timer. All of this means that we had earned a very simple win over the Totem, but we were still filled with a burning rage as my fire types and I stormed onwards to Po-Town. I couldn't believe it either. He had 6 fire types, and my 2 bugs still crushed him. Wow, Guzma, that Fuego kid must be the worst trainer of all time. I'd love to see you smush him right now. I'm going to end you, Guzma. Guzma may have embarrassed me in our last fight against the Team Skull top boss, but with our newest Talonflame evolution, alongside our Sunsetting Torkoal and reinforced Turtonator, now we were fully equipped to burn through his bugs like they are nothing. And don't you forget it, Guzma. Wow, thanks kid. Those Team Skull scumbags are a real pain to handle. I appreciate the help. I'm going to burn this place down and everyone in it. Why didn't I just become an accountant instead? The last big battle on Ula Ula is against the island Kahuna Nanu, and of the last major battles, this is by far the hardest, as it's a 3v3 and against a trio of powerful, fast, and dangerous dark types. Regardless, with our fully evolved cat dog, alongside our Oricorio, we were determined to try and keep our hot streak going. Against Nanu's lead Sableye, fortunately, our own dark type can go blow for blow, as Incineroar's darkest lariats put the goblin down for the 3 count. Then, against Krokorok, this is where the rest of our team can come together to pull off our deadly plan. Because by switching into Oricorio, it means that we avoid the incoming Earthquake before pivoting into Arcanine, which fires off an Intimidate. This nerfs Krokorok, and by doing this repeatedly, combined with Feather Dance, we completely neuter Krokorok's offense, clearing our Arcanine to finish it off with extreme speeds for an easy KO. We're not clear yet though, as Nanu's Ace, Alolan Persian is the scariest of the 3 with its high speed stat and super effective power gems. However, this is where our cat-dog duo clutches up as they slow down Persian by using bulldozers and low sweeps. This then allows our Kahuna killer Oricorio to finish the fight with one last revelation dance. Ula Ula Island had started off shaky, but by the end of it, we now had a massively upgraded team and capped off the penultimate island with a very dominant win. So much so that to stop us now, this game would have to pull out some kind of ridiculous all-powerful alien god or something. But that would be completely ridiculous. Oh dear god, no. Well, before all of that goes down, we're forced to travel to the Aether House by our most fearsome rival and skilled mentor. For some reason. Wait, why are we here, Gladion? Come on, Hal, pay attention. We need to save my sister from our insane mother who's going to try and take out a terrifying alien from another dimension. Isn't that right, Fuego? Yeah, totally. Way in tune with whatever you just said. A healthy dose of arson aside, next we're forced to take on Guzma for the 3rd and final time, as well as face off against the head of the Aether Foundation, Lusamine. In the case of Guzma, while our first loss was very embarrassing, our team has gotten way better since back then, and now we've got much better options at our disposal for dealing with his bug types. As a result, Guzma and his bug collection are completely torched to a crisp, giving us a very satisfying win and some sweet revenge over Team Skull. However, that was only the opening act. Our main event is against the head of this facility, who carries a diverse, powerful, and super effective team, meaning that we could be in a lot of trouble. Except, I forgot, Lusamine's an idiot. While she does have some big threats on her team with super effective attacks, many times she just chooses not to. So we can somehow squeeze past her squad in a pretty close battle. But even with her dumb AI, our team is just barely getting by, and given how rough the start of this challenge was, I was feeling very worried about the final act of this game. Before that really kicks off though, first we have to deal with the penultimate totem standing in our way, and that's found in the vast Pony Canyon's mythical fighter, Komodo. With its secondary dragon typing, this totem already has a natural resistance to our fire types, and on top of that, it also gets a boost in all of its stats, making this fight even more difficult. With that said, not only do we have a star-studded roster by this point, but by obtaining the Duskstone, we can take our Candle, who helped us earlier, and evolve it into the fiery ghost, Chandelure. So, with this new addition, I was feeling pretty confident going into this fight, and for good reason. Our oddly shaped Magmar has been a huge help in every single totem fight, and that continues here, as Clear Smog brings Komodo's stats back down to earth. After that, our new Chandelure also burns the beast with Will-O-Wisp, nerfing its attack even more, so comfortably in the driver's seat that this island's adventure is starting to feel like a vacation. With Salazzle also putting in work to poison the ally Noivern, both the totem and its allies can do nothing but slowly suffer until we'd once again conquered yet another totem Pokemon standing in our path. So, much like a flame burning brightly, while we were on a hot streak, all good things must come to an end. And, unfortunately for us, a tsunami was about to break and extinguish our fire Necrozma. At first, things don't seem too overwhelming. While the beast is able to control the newly revived legendary Solgaleo and transform into its Duskmane form, our big puppy is able to keep it at bay, getting us a pretty quick and comfortable win. However, that's not where this story ends, as Necrozma then robs the region of all its light. Oh my god, this is terrible! Soon the entire region will be plunged into darkness. Quick, there must be something we can all do. Guys, relax. Why don't we just start one massive bonfire to really light the region up? You guys are so boring. Not only are we stopped by the fun police, but according to them, apparently we're the only one capable of taking on Necrozma. And I mean, they're obviously correct that we're the best trainer in all of Pokemon, but there's just one tiny notch in this plan as we arrive in Ultra Megalopolis. And that is that Ultra Necrozma is far and away the most insanely broken and terrifying boss fight in all of Pokemon, with its transcendent stats boosted even further at the start of this fight, along with an incredibly painful type combination and a diverse, powerful moveset. It completely outmatches every single Pokemon on our team. Seriously, this fight is just so brutal. Ultra Necrozma rips through every fire type we have, all while any priority damage that we can inflict does less than ideal damage. We've been faced with tough battles since the very beginning of this challenge, including water-type menaces, rock-type masters, and worst of all, a cheesy rat. But this is too much. We just can't win no matter what we try and do. So, if this game wants to try and beat us down with completely unfair hacks, then we have no choice but to whip out some cheese of our own. Salazzle usually can't withstand a single hit from Necrozma, let alone a super effective power gem. However, it can if we give it a focus sash. This gives us exactly the lifeline we need, as now Salazzle is guaranteed to survive a hit, allowing us to land a fully accurate Toxic, and this is our key to victory. While our team then proceeds to quickly get crushed under the might of Necrozma, the toxic damage quickly accumulates, so much so that thanks to our numbers advantage, our team is able to stall out the all-powerful beast, letting it fall completely to poison damage. With that, my burning toxicity had just saved the world and turned the lights back on in Alola. I can't believe it, Fuego! You saved Alola and all the other worlds ruined by Necrozma? How can we ever repay you? Can I go and set fire to house water type? No! Looks like I'll have to take matters into my own hands then. Despite our heroics, it looks like nobody really is all that thankful for what we did. So it's time to take Alola under our control. And neither the final totem nor Island Kahuna can do much to stand in our way. Rabombi might be sporting strong stats with a double Omni boost, but it's still just a measly little bug, which we quickly crush into a buggy splat on the pavement. On the other hand, the final Island Kahuna, Hapu, may seem like a problem. I mean, she has 4 ground types, which are very threatening to our fire types. However, our Oricorio once again takes charge against an Island Kahuna. Feather Dance lets us nerf her lead Golurk's attack into the ground. This then clears the way for Turtonator to come in and boost up its stats massively with Shell Smash. On top of that, the combination of Iron Defense and Leftovers helps to keep us healthy before a sequence of Flamethrowers and Dragon Pulses utterly destroy Hapu's team members one after the other, ultimately cementing our power as we had now finished the Alolan Island Challenge. The majority of this challenge has been filled with pain and struggle, but now it felt like our fire types had truly reached their full potential and were finally a champion team in the making. So, to make that a reality, we began the long climb up Mount Lana towards the final hurdle of this challenge. Fuego, thank you for saving my family from Necrozma. I can't thank you enough. No problem, Sensei. I learned everything I could from you. Wait, what? Dude, I don't even use fire types. I'm sorry, Master. I must go all out in this battle, just this once. With that pivotal win now in our rearview mirror, as well as being able to rub it into Necrozma one last time, we eventually traverse all the way up to the peak of the mountain, ready to become the first Alolan champion. In order to reach that though, first we'd have to beat 4 of the strongest trainers in the region, all while using the same 6 Pokemon, which is no easy feat. Regardless, with this squad of chosen 6, my team of Pyromaniacs were finally ready for the final hurdle of this challenge. Let's do this. Since this Elite Four lets us choose the order in which we fight them, I decided to start with our best matchups first, and that doesn't bode well for Molayne and Acerola. The former is a Steel-type specialist, meaning that all of his Pokemon can be easily disposed of with a barrage of Sun-boosted fire attacks. And while Acerola's Ghosts don't have an inherent type disadvantage, our Marowak and Incineroar give us a pretty big advantage here that makes this fight very straightforward, giving us a strong start with back-to-back wins. The other two Elite Four members, though, aren't as straightforward to deal with. Third up is the Flying-type Golfer, Kahili, who carries 5 strong birdies that are not so easy to handle. For example, her lead Braviary, even with an Intimidate attack drop, still does massive damage with a Brave Bird to Arcanine. Thankfully, a Thunderfang in return does solid damage and also paralyzes Braviary too, giving us the early lead. Then, against Mandibuzz, our Incineroar can comfortably wall it, trading blows before a Flare Blitz cooks that Dark-type chicken well done. From here, despite the strength of her remaining Pokemon, Kahili's team just can't stand up to our firepower, meaning we're only 1 win away from the goal. Although, that last trainer in front of us sends a chill down my spine. Because it's Olivia, who was by far the hardest Kahuna for us to beat and easily the most painful Elite Four member standing in our way. Our squad has no real advantages over her team. So, if we were going to overcome Olivia's full-powered roster, we would need some persistence and a little creativity. Her lead Armaldo thankfully carries the painful illness of being a bug type, and our Marowak is defensive enough to tank a Stone Edge. This window lets us land a Bulldoze to lower its speed, before a Stone Edge of our own splits the fossil in 2. Unfortunately, next in is Gigalith, who is much more difficult to handle. And since it also has 5 powerful Stone Edges, one of which KOs our Marowak, we'd need a Pokemon to help stall this out. Fortunately, Torkoal and its ability to protect lets us burn through the last 4 PPs of Gigalith's Stone Edge. And while Torkoal sacrifices itself in the process, this lets our Talonflame come in safely, with Gigalith not really having much that it can do to us now. Combine this with our ability to boost up our attack with Workup, and heal off any damage that we do take with Roost, and our bird was about to go wild. It takes a bit of time, but eventually, after getting our Phoenix to max attack, it can gradually chip away at Gigalith, somehow overpowering the defensive menace into the dirt. Even though our boosted Talonflame still isn't enough to take out Lycanroc with a Flare Blitz, this is where the rest of our team takes charge. Arcanine bulldozes its way through the evil Rocky Fursuit, and the big-nosed freak Probopass follows soon after. From here, Incineroar can sweep the legs of Cradily, somehow, to pummel it down for a 3 count. With that, our team had conquered the Alolan Elite Four, despite having to rematch against Olivia and her full-powered team. And that's the story of how we became the champion of Alola and... Oh no. Yeah, while we technically are the champion by default, the game doesn't end here. Standing between us and total victory is Hal, our water-type bearing rival who has basically squandered us at every opportunity. His team is absolutely stacked with powerful Pokemon, making this the most terrifying fight of the entire challenge. However, it would only be right to finally finish this run in the same way we started it, with a battle against Hal. His lead Alolan Raichu is a giga threat with its special attack, but our Incineroar is able to tank a painful Focus Blast, as well as wipe out his lead with a single Darkest Lariat. Next in is the intimidating Tauros, so I try to pivot around it with Talonflame, evading the incoming Earthquake. However, then we're outsped, which is terrible for us as we have to tank a Double Edge, but our ability burns the bull. This is an absolute lifeline for our fiery bird, who then boosts its offense with Workup. Not only does that burn greatly nerf Taurus's damage, it also gives us a free turn to heal back up with Roost, putting us in a great position before we take out the bull with an Acrobatics. For some reason, Hal then follows up by sending in Crabominable, which gets annihilated by Acrobatics, putting us in a dominant 6 versus 3. However, fourth is the big one, Primarina. Sadly, we don't manage to take it out with acrobatics before a Hydro Vortex drowns our bird out of the sky. And I was then expecting How to heal his ace back up, except he's an idiot, and Salazzle can just as easily slide on in before a super effective Sludge Wave sends his ace to the trash. Fifth in is How's Noivern, who, thanks to its speed and power, can quickly overpower our Salazzle. However, this is where Marowak goes big, tanking a Dark Pulse before picking up the Revenge KO with Retaliate. As a result, this all leaves How, coincidentally, with only a final Fire-type Pokemon, Flareon. And honestly, there's only one way for this fight to end. With a 1-2 punch of Darkest Lariats, Incineroar is able to clothesline How's final Pokemon off of the mountain, giving us a decisive win and some revenge over our most fierce rival. We had become the undisputed king of the Alola region, and we had beaten all of Pokémon Ultra Sun using only Fire types. Jump into this video next for more Pokemon content, and leave a like on the video in support for all of the L's I had to take in this challenge. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.